Welcome to the Starfish Diaries. I am your host, Liz McKean, and you might have found me from another podcast or from yoga or through coaching or maybe a recovery event, but all that matters is that you're here now, and I am so glad that you're here. On this show, we're going to be talking about identity and self-trust and recovering from all sorts of things, including shame and burnout and squeezing ourselves into what we think good looks like. And I'm going to use a lot of metaphors because that's how I make sense of the world. And I'm hoping that helps you too. I'm really just here to remind you and honestly remind us that there is no such thing as doing life wrong and that you do get to make your life into a place that you want to be. And we're going to figure it out together. So let's go. Hi. We made it. Here we are. I made it here. You made it here. I'm so excited that we're here together and this podcast is happening. It has been a project on my mind and on my heart for a really long time. You may have found me through another podcast, either one where I was a guest or the Rise, Recover, Live, or another podcast that I've hosted. And yeah, this is different because this is the first time it is just me, no co-host, despite my absolute adoration for my co-host with the Mo-host. And I'm not even bringing on interviewees right away. So for a little while, it's going to be you and me, which if you're a podcast listener like I am, that's really fun because it can really just feel like it's just us, you know? So this is just a little bit of a snack-sized episode just to say, hi, I'm here. We're doing it. If you don't know me, if you just kind of clicked on this without knowing much about why, that's cool. We're going to figure it out together. So for this little mini episode, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and why this podcast exists, knowing it's going to be very fluid. Not going to always be the same flavor. I think I'll start by just telling you why it's called the Starfish Diaries. So many years ago, back when blogs were a thing, and to do one, you had to learn how to create a WordPress site, and that basically is a whole coding situation that I, to this day, have some nightmares about. I had a blog called the Starfish Diaries. It doesn't exist anymore. But I would just kind of like write my thoughts. I focused a lot on anxiety at that point. I wasn't really public back then about my journey with addiction and towards recovery. And for the record, that's not what this podcast is all about, but it's a big part of my story. So recovery comes up a lot. And I really think that we're all recovering. We all have things that we use to cope. And so it's relevant always. I think I talked about food a little bit. I remember creating a recipe or two, which is hilarious because I'm not a person who cooks and I'm a peanut butter and jelly sandwich girl. But anyway, the reason I called it that, and then later when I created my yoga business, Starfish Yoga, which to this day is my Instagram handle, was because years even before that, when I was in nursing school, I had a wonderful teacher give me a pewter starfish at graduation and a little card with the starfish story. And if you haven't heard the starfish story before, I'm going to read it to you. So you can go ahead and fast forward if you've already heard this a million times, but it's special to me. It's why I'm here. So the starfish story says, one day a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy picking something up and gently throwing it back into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "What are you doing?" And the youth replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, then they're going to die." "Son," the man said, "don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't possibly make a difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the surf. And then, smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference for that one." And it was a moment where who I was kind of solidified, you know. Obviously, that career didn't stick around. I'm no longer a practicing nurse. It was a big part of who I was for a long time. And I've had many jobs since then. But the person that I am who not only like views the world through that lens, but also survives the world through that lens, remains. And it just has always been kind of like this source of truth, this sort of touch tree in the scary forest of life and thoughts and all the things that fly through my head every day. And, particularly while the world can feel very, I don't know, sad and scary and tragic and all around us, it just feels impossible to make any difference. That story always reminds me that, like, yes, you freaking can. The person right in front of you is somebody you can smile at, and that makes a difference. Being kind and loving on your dog, it makes a difference. Like every little thing. And, there's ways to take that metaphor and that reality and zoom out and the web that is woven, and all these little acts of service and kindness and everything. And so I really have created my life around that concept. But, to be honest, that has gotten away from me. Like I have, as a person who wants to be of service, leave this world a little better than I got it, I can take that a little too far, put on my superhero cape, and think that it is all up to me. That can quickly become overwhelming. That has led to self-sabotage. That has led to burnout, that then I'm not only not any good to anybody, but now somebody's going to have to help me. And that's not what it's about. Like for me, it's about remembering that, every moment you have the ability to make a difference. And also, this is the part that I missed that I think is going to be a big focus of what we talk about on this show. Like, you are a starfish too. I am a starfish too. What makes a difference to me is also critically important. And I'm actually like my most important starfish, because if I am stranded on that beach and, the sun is baking down and I need that water to survive, if I don't take the steps I need to be in the water, and then not only there, but like find some joy, find some friends, have some seaweed if that's what my jam is, then what are we even doing? So when I get kind of wrapped up in that, all that just tangled mess of like, does any of this even matter? Like in that moment, maybe I take a sip of water and that helps. And that is just as important as the next possibly bigger looking thing that I do. I've been on a real journey. Oh God, I hate that word, but here we are. Of just self-trust and self-love, but honestly self-like. And I feel like we all talk about those things and use those words a lot, but I want to dig into it a little bit more with you. I use a lot of metaphors, so if you don't like metaphors, maybe you'll learn to love them, or maybe you'll find another podcast. Either way, it helps me to make sense of the world in a way that allows me to continue to like myself and trust myself. And I hope that just this little bit of time that we spend together, where I can share a little bit of me and then a little bit of others too. I'm definitely going to have friends on here occasionally. I hope that allows you to maybe more clearly see the value and the beauty and the trustworthiness and the like-worthiness in you. And honestly, if that's all that happens, then we did it, So I hope that you stick around. I hope that you listen. You can listen to me at 1.5 or 2.0 speed, and I'll never know, and I won't judge you, because I do that too on every podcast. You can listen sometimes and not others. I'm just so glad that you're here right now, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do this. I'm so grateful for all the lives I've lived before this that have allowed me to be here and speaking into this microphone, and I can't wait to start filling out this diary that is all about you and all about me, this ocean of starfish. So we'll be here every week. I'll eventually have ways that you can connect with me, and for now you can find me at Starfish Yoga on Instagram. More to come, but thanks for being here, for being you. I adore you. I'll talk to you soon.